The story begins with a priest telling a young Lawrence about saints and their protection policies. He tells Lawrence never to forget this principle, and that's different from the rest. After some time, Lawrence is older and takes a boy and his mother to meet Cecilia, the only saint in town. The boy asks Cecilia if he can help him resolve a dispute with his friend, and she gives him advice. Lawrence informs the boy's mother that Cecilia has no issue helping people since she's required to. After the boy and his mother depart, Cecilia shows her true colors. Lawrence confirms Cecilia likes to act lazy only when she's in front of him. We see this unfold as she quickly shifts her demeanor to a professional one as people enter the church. Lawrence asks Cecilia why she likes lazing around when it's only him in the room. She dodges the question and asks Lawrence why she won't let her participate in specific activities like cooking or digging. Lawrence tells Cecilia he doesn't want her to get hurt, confirming he can be overprotective. Lawrence tells Cecilia he'll be visiting some homes in town, and Cecilia begs him to let her accompany him during his expedition. Lawrence complies but asks Cecilia to avoid people if they ask her to show them her mysterious powers. Lawrence leaves to prepare and Cecilia is happy to spend quality time with him. Cecilia asks the church's angels to make their presence known to her. She tells them to stop following Lawrence because it makes her jealous. As Lawrence and Cecilia meet a woman, a crowd of children swarm Cecilia and ask for a miracle. Thankfully, she stays put and refuses their demands. Lawrence overhears the kids and pulls Cecilia aside. Cecilia shows the kids a card trick to fulfill their miracle desires, shocking Lawrence. Lawrence and Cecilia visit a shop owner for a bit to talk. Cecilia spots a wedding dress in the shop and loses it, revealing her true nature to someone other than Lawrence. The shop owner explains how females love stopping by her shop to look at it. Further, she admits she made the dress for a woman's upcoming wedding early, so she's displaying it here for a while. The shop owner admits she always wanted a daughter and loves chatting with girls around Cecilia's age. The shop owner tells Cecilia many people think she looks cute. Embarrassing her, she hands Cecilia a piece of clothing as a gift for stopping by. The shop owner silently tells Cecilia she's willing to make her a wedding dress anytime, alluding to the fact that she may know she likes Lawrence. Cecilia and Lawrence leave the shop and encounter a cat. Lawrence scares the feline away and wishes he didn't have that effect on animals. They return to the church, and a girl named Lily and her mother greet Lawrence with flowers. Lawrence and the girl's mother leave Cecilia to watch Lily. Lily tells Cecilia she plans to marry the pastor when she's older, but Cecilia says she shouldn't. Lawrence overhears Cecilia talking ill of him and scolds her when they're alone inside for it. However, he's willing to look past Cecilia's antics if she tells him how she feels about him personally next time. Cecilia admits that there are many things about Lawrence that she likes. Lawrence asks Cecilia if he wants her to make some of her favorite meals, and Cecilia gladly accepts. As they bake together, Lawrence recalls his first meeting with Cecilia. He states Cecilia appeared in their village out of nowhere, so he took her to the church, and she remained by his side since that day. However, Cecilia likes to get herself in harmful circumstances, resulting in him always keeping a watchful eye on her. Lawrence tries getting Cecilia up the following day for breakfast because she woke up late. Cecilia tells Lawrence to enter her room to wake her up. Lawrence discovers Cecilia wearing new pajamas she got from the shop owner and says she looks adorable, embarrassing her. Cecilia changes her clothes and visits Lawrence at the table for breakfast. Lawrence and Cecilia discuss their likes and dislikes concerning food for a while before leaving their home to shop for things. Lawrence tries his best to prevent Cecilia from hurting herself the entire time, leading to many funny situations. After gathering the essentials, Lawrence wonders if he should get things to make sweets, but Cecilia urges Lawrence to buy the ingredients. Cecilia tells Lawrence she admires everything she does for him in the village, but Lawrence thinks she's going too far. It starts raining, so Lawrence and Cecilia rush over to find shelter. A woman and her friend notice the pair without one and offer them umbrellas. Cecilia entices Lawrence to share an umbrella with her, but the rain stops, ruining her chance to have an intimate moment with him. That is until Lawrence picks her off her feet and rushes home. Shortly after, Cecilia notices Lawrence sleeping and states how attached she is to him. Cecilia holds Lawrence and vows to protect him no matter what. We see Lawrence's friend Abel arriving at Lawrence's and Cecilia's home. Abel asks Lawrence if he could work at the church for a while since he didn't like working with the people at his church. Although Lawrence doesn't want him around, Cecilia convinces him to let Abel work for them. Abel asks Lawrence for Cecilia's name but doesn't vocally tell him. Abel questions why no one calls Cecilia by her name since it's nice. Lawrence leaves Abel with Cecilia to give himself time to finish some paperwork. Cecilia asks Abel if Lawrence has a sweetheart. Abel confirms he does, upsetting Cecilia. However, he says Lawrence views the scriptures are his sweetheart, calming Cecilia. Abel hands Cecilia the paper Lawrence wrote her name on as an apology. Our trio head to the church. Cecilia learns this isn't Abel's first time visiting the church. Lawrence confirms Abel visited the church often and spent the night there despite being scolded for it. Abel questions why Lawrence hasn't noticed Cecilia's feelings for him. Cecilia tells Abel that Lawrence thinks of himself as her caregiver. Abel goes for a walk, and Lawrence says this is a great time for Cecilia to loll around. Cecilia is concerned about how she'll balance her habits with Abel nearby, but Lawrence questions why she's so concerned about how someone else perceives her if she's not afraid to show her true side to Lawrence. Cecilia says she isn't concerned about how Lawrence perceives her because he'll accept her that way. Lawrence is glad Cecilia wants to only laze around when she's around him because it makes him feel special. Lawrence leaves to attend to matters while Cecilia contemplates Lawrence's best qualities. We get a montage of Cecilia and Lawrence performing their duties as Abel sits around doing nothing to help them. After a day's work, Lawrence orders Abel to attend some cleanup duties. Cecilia questions why he's hard on Abel, and Lawrence says he picked up his stern attitude from his grandfather. Lawrence gets a severe headache as Abel returns. Abel tells Cecilia she bestowed him with too much divine protection, so she swiftly removes some to free Lawrence of his mental pain. Abel and Cecilia discuss the situation further. He admits he did all he can to protect Lawrence in the past. We cut to a flashback between a young Lawrence and his grandfather. Lawrence is irritated that he can't play the piano while his grandfather hands him a newspaper with news of a new lady saint being discovered. Lawrence asked his grandfather if this is a huge deal. His grandfather says it is because more villages like theirs, who don't have one, will request her to live here for their divine protection abilities. His grandfather shares stories he's heard about lady saints protecting people from natural disasters, their hearts, and other outside evils. His grandfather tells Lawrence that he's special. We cut to Abel informing Cecilia that Lawrence attracts all types of angels and demons, despite not being able to see them himself. Cecilia wishes she had enough power to protect Lawrence from all types of danger. Abel realizes they're the perfect match for each other. Cecilia and Abel admit they never told Lawrence about his supernatural attracting abilities. Cecilia tells Abel the church holds lots of fairies and 4 angels, and Abel says it might be dangerous to have them flying around since it could result in Lawrence succumbing to poor health conditions again. Abel reveals he came here to check on Lawrence since he received many letters concerning his health. However, Abel wasn't too worried since Lawrence mentioned living with someone who made his days brighter. Cecilia tells Abel not to cut himself short while spouting how jealous she is of him for seeing Lawrence during his seminary days. Abel promises to bring Cecilia photos of those days next time. Lawrence wakes up and tries a meal Cecilia cooked. He likes it, but Abel forces Cecilia to try the dish, resulting in her leaving the room in embarrassment. Lawrence asks Abel to reveal why he came here. Abel promises not to let the nobles know of Cecilia's presence and doesn't plan to expose her. Abel asks Lawrence what he thinks of Cecilia, and Lawrence says he trusts and respects Cecilia. Lawrence helps Cecilia with a spider problem in her room and has Abel clean up the kitchen, while Lawrence respects Cecilia. He admits the term doesn't capture how he feels about her, and Lawrence vows to protect Cecilia with all his heart. Abel returns to Cecilia and Lawrence's church sick after getting caught up in a thunderstorm. Cecilia promises to look after Abel. After handling his church duties for the day, he returns home to check on Cecilia and Abel and notices they've fallen asleep. Lawrence lies to Cecilia about the congregation being around to wake her up. They discuss some things. Cecilia notes Lawrence's stern behavior and wonders if he's getting sick. Lawrence says he's doing fine, but promises he won't be stern around Cecilia again. Cecilia heads to her room to change clothes. Abel awakens and Lawrence questions if he is sick. The next day passes. Lawrence prepares Cecilia with many sweets, but Cecilia notices Lawrence is acting strange. Abel tells Cecilia that he's suffocating from all the guilt, but Cecilia doesn't know what Abel's referring to. He hands Lawrence a letter from one of their old classmates. Abel says he attends normal meetings with them. Lawrence says he do so but doesn't want to leave Cecilia alone. Abel suggests ways Lawrence can bring and introduce Cecilia to their classmates. He leaves Lawrence and Cecilia to put his letter away. Cecilia asks Lawrence about his friends, and Lawrence questions if Cecilia thinks ill of this place after yesterday's fiasco. Lawrence apologizes for showing Cecilia unsightly sides of himself, but Cecilia promises him she'd never grow ill of this place as it puts her mind at ease. Later, Lawrence notices someone left a scarf at the church. He wants to visit the village with Cecilia to return the scarf to its owner. However, Abel tags along because he doesn't want to be alone at the church. In the village, Lawrence tells Cecilia he plans to travel to the person's house on the other side of the river. A fortune teller interrupts our protagonists and asks them for service. Lawrence appreciates her tenacity but declines her offer. However, the fortune teller tells them how hard it is for her to make money, coercing them to accept. The fortune teller tells Abel, Lawrence, and Cecilia their fortunes. Afterwards, Cecilia gets her cape ripped by some wood, and a passerby notices. This person asks Cecilia to accompany her to a shop to choose something else to wear. Lawrence thinks it'll be a great idea and says they can deliver the lost item while Cecilia is looking for a new outfit. Cecilia visits the shop with the woman. The woman and her friends find some attire that best suits Cecilia. The shop owner tells Cecilia to ask Lawrence his thoughts about her new look and why he didn't want to attend the shop with the woman. Lawrence tells Abel why he let Cecilia travel with the woman to the shop. Abel asks him what he plans to do if Cecilia walks around the village and finds herself a handsome gentleman. The shop owner shows Cecilia a picture of the person who purchased the wedding dress from episode 1. She teases Cecilia about making her one someday. The shop owner claims Lawrence seems happier with Cecilia and feels he longs for a normal family. She confirms Lawrence never had parents, so his grandfather raised him. Since his grandfather's demise, Lawrence always felt lonely. Cecilia leaves the shop and almost trips. Thankfully, a female traveler saves her and tells Cecilia she's looking for someone. Cecilia apologizes that she can't be of assistance but thanks her for helping her. Lawrence and Abel bump into Cecilia and confirm they returned the item to the person. Cecilia asks Lawrence his thoughts about her clothes and says she looks nice. Cecilia asks him to elaborate further, so he says she looks lovely, making Cecilia happy. Meanwhile, the girl who saved Cecilia asks the fortune teller for directions to the church, and the woman wanting to meet the village's saint to see what she's like. The girl arrives at the church and meets Lawrence and Abel, and apologizes for breaking the door, and promises to compensate Lawrence for her actions. She states she has business with Abel because he abandoned his work as a home tutor in his town. Abel confirms the girl speaking the truth as she introduces herself as Hazelita Aldrich. Hazelita reveals she's the one who sent Abel the letter he tried burning in the previous episode. Cecilia returns from her 4-leaf clover trip and properly introduces herself to Hazelita. Hazelita didn't expect Cecilia to be the Lady Saint since she was more absent-minded when they met in episode 3. Cecilia says she couldn't find any clovers, but she found some flowers and wants to make a crown with them. Hazelita helps Cecilia make a crown as Abel asked her if she brought him any gifts. Hazelita follows our protagonist to their house and admits she wanted to meet this town's Lady Saint after fetching Abel. Lawrence claims that catching a glimpse of a Lady Saint is a rarity. Cecilia discusses the great Lady Saint with Hazelita and says she's the most difficult one to meet since she lives on Michel Island. She says Lady Saints like herself are the easiest to meet since they blend in with the lives of ordinary people. Lawrence recalls hearing about a Lady Saint who resided in the town of the West, the place Hazelita and Abel come from. Abel asks Lawrence to let Hazelita stay here for the night, and Lawrence complies. Hazelita recalls the previous time she made a flower crown for the Lady Saint of her town. Unfortunately, the Lady Saint of her town develops a severe illness, and Hazelita urges everyone to help her. However, someone tells Hazelita that she's foolish for thinking someone like a Lady Saint needs their help or can fall victim to common illnesses. Hazelita despises Lady Saint managers because of her experiences. She feels they're all blinded by greed and the need for notoriety. Lawrence visits Hazelita, and she asks him about his thoughts about Cecilia since he lives with her. Lawrence says he enjoys having someone to eat food with, shocking Hazelita. This is because previous Lady Saint managers used Lady Saints for wealth and working purposes. Lawrence assures Hazelita that he treasures Cecilia greatly and wants to see her smile. Cecilia approaches Abel and asks him if he arranged for Hazelita to meet Lawrence since it has something to do with the Lady Saint of her town. Abel asks Cecilia if she knew stories about the Lady Saint of Compassion. He reveals that the people of that town treated her like she transcended humanity, leading to her dying of a disease. Abel reveals Hazelita was the Lady Saint of Compassion's dearest friend. After enjoying dinner with Abel, Lawrence, and Cecilia, Hazelita asks Cecilia about the idea of living with a guy alone and nothing happening between them. Cecilia confirms nothing romantic happens between them, and Hazelita finds it somewhat strange. After some banter between the four, Hazelita tells Cecilia if anything happens between her and Lawrence to talk with her. Abel and Hazelita leave Lawrence and Cecilia for tutoring sessions. Cecilia thanks Lawrence for treating her with such care. The following day, Abel wishes some townspeople good luck as Hazelita spies on him from afar. Hazelita tells Abel that she misunderstood Lawrence and finds he's an exceptional worker despite being dense. Cecilia stumbles upon a box, and Lawrence says it holds a nostalgic item inside. Cecilia shows the item to Hazelita and Abel. Abel recalls Lawrence making them for his grandfather's event in the past and admits they aren't adorable looking. Cecilia vows to help Lawrence turn them into cute items that'll make Hazelita and Abel change their views. Hazelita thinks the pair are dense, and Lawrence confirms the liquid on the items is chocolate, and Abel suggests he and Hazelita leave as soon as they can. We see Lawrence tells Hazelita and Abel he must embark on a trip to visit Corinne. He asks the two if they'd like to accompany him and Cecilia there, and they accept his offer. The group meet Corinne, and she's happy that Lawrence isn't lonely since he has people like Hazelita, Abel, and Cecilia around. Lawrence tells Hazelita to stay put and look after Abel while he and Cecilia conduct a service for Corinne. While Corinne discusses Lawrence's past with Cecilia, Hazelita uses her camera to snap photos. Hazelita gets lost in the forest, resulting in Abel looking for her. Meanwhile, Lawrence offers to make dinner while Corinne shares more stories about him with Cecilia. Corinne notices Cecilia might be in love with Lawrence, and Cecilia feels embarrassed. Lawrence calls Miss Corinne over to help him prepare things. As they're staring out at the lake from Corinne's windows, Corinne tells Lawrence she often hears voices when she's by the lake. Corinne heard rumors that the voices came from fairies, so she asked Mr. Oswell, Lawrence's grandfather, to consult with her. She believes Oswell can see things others couldn't, making him a fascinating figure. Afterward, Abel and Hazelita enter Corinne's home. Cecilia asks Corinne where Lawrence is. Corinne tells Cecilia he went somewhere, enticing Cecilia to leave the place to find him. Hazelita tells Abel she had issues with her camera's shutter when taking photos of the lake. Corinne tells Abel that visitors who stop by don't have issues taking photos of her area. Abel believes there's something in the lake preventing Hazelita from taking photos. Lawrence visits the lake and almost trips. Thankfully, Cecilia saves him from falling. Lawrence opens up about his grandfather, his death, and Lawrence's goal to look after church to honor him. Lawrence admits he's tried to become more like his grandfather. He states how difficult it is to accomplish this feat. Cecilia tells Lawrence while it's nice that he wants to be like his father, sulking about his failures will waste his time. Lawrence asks Cecilia questions about the voices coming from the lake. Lawrence confirms he felt like he was pulled into the lake, confirming Cecilia's speculation that fairies are responsible. Abel and Hazelita arrive. Hazelita scolds Lawrence for his recklessness. Cecilia asks Abel for an Iron-Maid cross. She wants to punish the naughty fairies who attempted to harm Lawrence. Lawrence asks Cecilia if he can watch her perform what she's about to do. After accepting Lawrence's request, Cecilia performs her enchantment and asks the fairies to have fun in the middle of the lake, where no people are present. Lawrence is baffled by Cecilia's power and questions if this is what his grandfather did back then. Lawrence and the others bid Corinne farewell and head for their carriage in the morning. Cecilia wonders when the time will come to inform Lawrence about his unusual predisposition. It's now Valentine's Day, and Abel gives Cecilia information about the holiday since she was unaware of it. He tells her that Lawrence received chocolates from many girls during his youth, giving Cecilia some ideas. Abel grabs Lawrence, and Hazelita tells him it's Valentine's Day today. Abel encourages Cecilia to ask Lawrence to teach her how to make chocolates. 1 hour later, Cecilia crafts a horrendous piece of chocolate. Lawrence leaves to get more ingredients and wonders who Cecilia is making the chocolate for. Abel and Hazelita travel through town as Abel explains why it's beneficial for Cecilia to have Lawrence teach her to make chocolate. Meanwhile, Lawrence bumps into the fortune teller from a previous episode named Mel. He tells Mel that Cecilia is making chocolates for someone. Lawrence returns home and discovers Cecilia's wounded herself with a knife. Cecilia urges Lawrence to let her continue making chocolates, making Lawrence mildly jealous. He thinks Cecilia will abandon him for someone she's making chocolates for, despite telling him she'll always be with him during their fairy incident at Corinne's place. Cecilia finishes making the chocolate and presents it to Lawrence. Lawrence tells Cecilia he thought she made it for someone else and finds it funny she came to him for chocolate crafting advice. He thanks Cecilia and questions how he can repay her. Hazelita and Abel return, and she criticizes Lawrence for his dense behavior. Cecilia feels satisfied to see Lawrence express himself in ways she never seen before. We see Cecilia assisting a cafe while Lawrence completes errands. Cecilia tells the customers she wants to help since it'll help her understand her fellow citizens' daily lives. She also wants Lawrence to see her working hard to receive praise from him. Lawrence enters the cafe and is shocked to see Cecilia working there. He questions if she broke something, but Cecilia ensures she's helping the cafe owner since they're short on staff. After sharing a table with Mel to observe Cecilia, the cafe owner greets Lawrence. She tells Lawrence Cecilia brought in more customers and needs more assistance. Lawrence decides to help the cafe owner out, surprising Cecilia. After walking home from work, Lawrence tells Cecilia and Hazelcia He and Abel must visit the village for an important matter. He tasks Hazelita with watching Cecilia while they're away. Cecilia uses this opportunity to get to know Hazelita more. Hazelita encourages Cecilia to act more womanlike in hopes of helping her get Lawrence to think of her as a woman instead of a child. Hazelita reveals she's persuading Cecilia to move forward with her romantic endeavors because she's met many lady saints who put others' happiness before their own. Cecilia tells Hazelita not to worry about her and asks about her connection with Abel. Meanwhile, a man bumps into Abel and Lawrence and thanks them for looking for his lost son. Lawrence and Abel return home and the girls greet them with banter and jokes. Thereafter, Abel dreams about his childhood after looking through photos. He remarks he could see things others couldn't, resulting in his parents, friends, and others finding him creepy. After getting kicked out of his dorm, Abel found hope after meeting a certain person. Abel leaves his room and hands Cecilia the photos pertaining to Lawrence's school days. Cecilia and Hazelcia look through the photos until Lawrence arrives. They ask him why Abel looks expressionless in the photos. Lawrence recalls Abel being different from the man he is now because of the sad life he endured. Abel finds a letter in the mailbox while Lawrence informs the girls of his and Abel's early beginnings. He recounts a moment in his past that led to him and Abel having a close connection. Abel arrives and hands Hazelita the letter, which happens to be from her older brother. Abel tells Hazelita to respond to him before he winds up heading here. Hazelita writes a response and hands it to Abel. Before Abel departs to the village to send it, Cecilia stops him. Cecilia thanks him for meeting Lawrence. Abel tells Cecilia that he's glad she met him because now he can set his sights on someone else. But that's it for this part. Let me know in the comments if you want the next part of this anime.